Hi, hello, my name is Sam, my pronouns are they, them, and welcome back to my office. Today we are doing a year in review, 2023 reading edition. So, when it comes to the year of 2023, my reading had some really severe ups and downs. And I did some really awesome things that I really liked, and then I did some horrible things that I would not recommend. My content, I had some really good months, some really good videos that I enjoyed doing, and then this last portion of 2023 was truly garbage. So, let's do a year in review of reading. We are going to be referencing my Storygraph, which I'm going to put like up here. So we can go through those stats, and we are going to be going through my 2023 goals in my reading journal to see how I did with those two. I think let's start with our Storygraph year in review, my reading wrap up. So let's see. I finished 133 books. So my chart for my Storygraph is a little bit skewed because I did not realize that you could put audiobooks into your Storygraph by changing the edition because I am dumb. And I was looking at other people's year in reviews and I was like, how did you get minutes read? It's because I'm an idiot. So you just have to change the edition to the audiobook edition. So I did not actually read 44,000 pages because about half of these are audiobooks. So take the page number with a grain of salt. So my first book of 2023 was A Crown of Burning Light by Kendall R. Jens. I was an ARC reader for this, like a beta reader, and I really enjoyed this book. I thought that it was a fun, classic, like, romantasy. And you always gotta love a good romantasy. And my last book was To Shape a Dragon's Breath by Monoquill Black Goose, which I do have an in-depth reading video on that coming out. This is pretty solid, and like I did really well towards the beginning of the year, and then I kind of started fading off. My top genre was fantasy, and I read 65 fantasy books, and then we went to romance at 53, and then we did queer at 52. I read a lot more YA than I thought I was going to. I can't believe that the answer for that is 32. And then contemporary, which I still don't really understand contemporary as a genre, so I'm still figuring that one out. My longest book was A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon, which I did love. I thought it was really good. And then my shortest, I don't read a lot of novellas, but I did read Miss LaFaux because Kimberly Lemon has become a little bit of an obsession for me. I did a reread of Aristotle and Dante, Discover the Secrets of the Universe, which I feel like I always do. I read it quite often. This was the year of Katie Roberts. I've known about the Hoopla app for a really long time. If you don't know, the Hoopla app is something that a lot of libraries have that goes hand in hand with their Libby app. And I've had my Hoopla app for quite a few years, but I didn't realize they did like a major update to it. So now the app is like a million times better. I love it. I use it constantly, almost every day. It's fantastic. If your library offers Hoopla, get it, use it. It's worth it. And almost all Katie Roberts books are on my library's Hoopla app. So I went crazy because I love her. I love her as just like a comforting, like, smut to consume and be in love with. And then Sean and McGuire, I read all of the Wayward Children series books this year. I did a whole video on that, breaking them all down. And then Chloe Liaz, I read her entire Bergman Brothers series this year. So my average rating was a 3.87, which is pretty standard. I feel like that's pretty good. I feel like I rate most things on the higher end. I don't do a lot of super low ratings. So my 2023 5-star reads are pretty fantastic. I believe there were 29 of them. So we've got Soul of the Deep by Natasha Bowen, Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alir Sands, I'm in Love with Mothman by Paige Lavoie, Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry, Now She is Witch by Kirsty Logan, which was fantastic and I definitely recommend it. It was a hard book to get here in the US, but totally worth it. Peter Darling by Austin Chant, that is a queer trans Peter Pan retelling. The Four Profound Weaves by R.B. Lemberg. Fantastic. That was in my top 10 this year. So was Light from Uncommon Stars by Rika Aoki. Both also trans. Fantastic books. Cemetery Boys, I did a reread of this. So Aiden Thomas. Akweke Emezi, Dear Synthurian. I give almost everything they write 5 stars. I'm obsessed with them. Happy Place by Emily Henry. This was the first Emily Henry book that I have read that I actually gave 5 stars. I usually feel fairly mediocre about her books, so this was really nice. Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. That was a reread. 5 stars again. The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. 3rd reread of that. Every Heart a Doorway, Down Among the Sticks and Bones, and In an Absent Dream were my 3 5 stars for the Wayward Children series by Seanan McGuire. The Deep by River Solomon. They are also a fantastic trans author. The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. New favorite author. Adore her. What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. Fantastic. Love a good mushroom horror based off The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. This Is How You Lose the Time War by Max Gladstone. This and Amal El Motar. I loved this book. This was heartbreaking. If Only You by Chloe Liez. Autistic romance. Love me autism romance, and I love me some autism romance that has like the love interest is like, I'm not deserving of you, I need to work on myself more. Ugh. Song for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. We all loved this. This was super cozy and sweet and wonderful. The 100 Years War on Palestine by Rashid Khalidi. This was a fantastic nonfiction book. This was so well done, so well organized, so thought out and intricate, and just such a good education point for the understanding of how we have gotten to where we are with Palestine and how the atrocities that have been done against them have kind of built up over the past 100 years. Love After the End, an anthology of two-spirit and indigiqueer speculative fiction. This was fantastic. This was the only anthology that I have ever given 5 stars, and I loved every second of it. A Lot's Away by Darcy Little Badger, which was a really late in the year 5-star for me. I really enjoyed it though. It was a YA indigenous story, and it was super interesting the way that spirits were brought into it. I just thought was really well done. It was a fantastic YA. I absolutely recommend it. I skipped over a bunch. So That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon by Kimberly Lemming. 5 stars. Obsessed with Kimberly Lemming. The Iron King by Julie Kagawa. This was a reread for me. I'm doing a childhood, like, nostalgia reads where I finish up series that I started when I was, like, 10 years old. Julie Kagawa has been a favorite author of mine since I was like 10. I remember going to Borders and staring at her books, like desperately wanting them. So, White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. This was a Haunting in Hill House bedbug like horror, and obsessed with it. Obsessed with Tiffany D. Jackson now. Sword Heart by T. Kingfisher was also really fantastic. T. Kingfisher is just like a good author for me. It's where we're at with our 5 stars. I'm pretty happy with that 5-star list, honestly. Like, I still feel strongly that all of these should be 5 stars and that they deserve to be 5 stars. We had 41 4 stars. My lowest was a 1.5 star. I don't even remember what it was. March was a really good month for me. I don't even remember what I was reading in March, but like I was really close to like a 5-star average. December was trash. December was trash because I was reading books that I didn't actually want to be reading, but I was reading them because they were accessible to me at that exact moment, which was a bad choice. The Song of Achilles was like the most popular, like the most shelved, and I didn't really like it. Then we have the ARC book that I read, which I really enjoyed. I explored 64 new authors, including A.R. Capetta, which is an author that I will be keeping my eye on for the rest of time now. If you didn't know, I read The Heartbreak Bakery, which is a trans YA, like contemporary romance kind of scenario. It's fantastic. I reread 7 books this year, which is it's probably more than that because I went through and read some nostalgia reads. So it's probably a lot more than that, but they're just from like when I was a child, so I didn't really keep track of that. I did not finish 7 books this year, which were The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. Oh yeah. So The Christmas Swap by Talia Samuels. This book was insufferable. I could not even get through like 2 hours of it. It was just insufferable. The characters were just insufferable. An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. It just wasn't for me. It was like a classic 2013 kind of dystopian kind of vibe, which just isn't my vibe. Ace of Spades, which I was so sad that I couldn't get through. It gave like better written Pretty Little Liars vibes, but that's just not something that I'm interested in at this point in time. It would have been something that I was interested in if I had read it at a different time in my life. But it just wasn't for me, but the writing was gorgeous. A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. And this was on my backlog, my 23 backlog of 2023 list. It was so long, and it was so brutal, and it could have been like 3 minutes of a story and then been done, but instead it was like 10 hours. And Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare, which I've decided I'm done with Cassandra Clare. So sets me up for success. I read more than 22 books from my own shelves this year, but I just have not updated my owned shelf very well. My 23 at a glance, which just goes on, but I also made a little graphic that will be in the thumbnail so you can see them all, and it's just craziness. So that is where we were at with our Storygraph kind of statistics, which I feel gives a really good like general overlook of where you're at with your year of reading, especially when you do it correctly, unlike I did last year, which I will be doing correctly this year, which makes me feel a lot better. But with that, let's kind of go back and look at the goals that I set in my 2023 reading log, which I know I did poorly at. Focus on fantasy books. I am not checking that off as a successful goal, despite reading a ton of fantasy. When I say fantasy, I mean like putting effort and energy into fantasy and like hardcore, like heavy hitting fantasy books. I don't mean like cozy fantasy. I don't mean like a romance that's like technically set in a fantasy world, but it's way more romance than fantasy. And you know, I know that's not a very clear distinction for other people, but it's a very, like, I know what I'm talking about. It's a very clear distinction for me. And I did not do a good job on focusing on fantasy this year. Definitely not. It's because I get overwhelmed. Like, not even like overwhelmed with reading it. I get overwhelmed at the thought. Because I'm like, I want to spend so much time on this, but I don't have that level of time. Or I don't feel like I have that level of focus, or I'm just so exhausted after working and socializing and being human that I just have a hard time with it. But I'm gonna do better this year. Do at least 5 novel breakdowns. I did not even do 1. I feel like 2023 was an entire year of a depressive episode, and it was awful. So 2023 was a year of mental illness, and I feel like 2024 is going to be the same. But we're gonna try to work through it and be accessible. 2023 goal: focus on physical reads. I did not do this well. I feel like I get stuck and like trash TV. Like, I don't like watching TV, and yet I watch like a lot of it because I just like get stuck watching like garbage. I don't even watch like actual shows or movies. I like watch people play The Sims. Not even people I like, so I make poor choices. Get through the MB Reads book club. So I started this. I failed like 3 or 4 months in because I couldn't get the book. And it was an indie published book, so like none of the bookstores around me had it, and I was mad at Amazon because Amazon is trash. Amazon is trash ethically, but Amazon is also trash because I have Prime, which is 2-day shipping because my mom pays for it. I don't pay for it. But it's supposed to be 2-day shipping. It takes 5 to 7 days to get to me. I had a moment with Amazon this year. I'm still having a moment with Amazon. I hate them. But none of the bookstores around me are willing to order indie published. So I couldn't get it, and I was just having like a hard time. And then they ended up stopping the book club, I think. I mean, this was a failure partially on my part and partially just because the book club ended, whatever. Read 100 books. I did that. I read 133. Complete my 23 backlog of 2023. I did not do this, but I got like more than 50% through. I did 14 out of 23. So I did over 50%. In spirit, I'm counting this as completed, even though I didn't like actually complete it, especially because it helped me get rid of a ton of books off my shelves. So that made me feel pretty good. And it also helped me find a book that I've had on my shelf since like 2017 that I actually loved, and the author is now like on my watch list. It's Amanda Foody, I believe. It was Daughter of the Burning City. I've had an arc of that on my shelves for so many years because I got it at BookCon one year. Rip BookCon. But I never read it, and I just read it this year and I absolutely loved it. Baby me would have loved it. I don't know why I didn't read it sooner. Read 5 indie published books. I definitely did that this year. I definitely did that. I'm in Love with Mothman by Paige Lavoie. I read a ton of Chloe Liez. She got picked up by a publisher this year, but originally all her books were indie. Kimberly Lemming, I read like 3 books by her. She is indie. I Fell in Love with Hope by Lynn Colley. For some reason, that is like absolutely, that review is my absolute #1 top watched video on this channel. I don't know why. I'm definitely not like a fantastic reviewer. I'm trying to get better, but like, so I've definitely read more than 5 indie published books this year. So that one was a success. And the last one was keep track of all books bought, which I did. I kept track of all the books I bought, and all the books my girlfriend bought for me, and all the books that my mom bought for me, and all the books that my non bought for me. Because my family buys me books when I'm sad and when it's a holiday or when it's my birthday. And I was sad a lot this year. There was a lot of sadness going around this year. So I got a lot of books gifted to me, but I also bought a lot of books, so I kept track of all of those really well. So I'm really happy with that. Out of all my goals, I only succeeded at 2 of them. I succeeded at 1 of them in spirit, but not in actuality. Another thing that I didn't do was I have a most anticipated releases of 2023 list. You can't like see any of it, whatever. But I did not keep track of any of these. I don't think I read a single one of these. Oh, I read Now She Is Witch by Kirsty Logan, which came out in January. I did read that. I did read Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. I did read She Is a Haunting by Trang Van Tran. I did read The Faithless by C.L. Clark. So I read 4 of my most anticipated, which is not very good. So the Empty Book Club. I read All the White Spaces by Allie Wilkes. That was a favorite of this year. I read The Heartbreak Bakery by A.R. Capetta. That was a honorable mention favorite of this year. And I read The Faithless by C.L. Clark. So I did January, February, and March. April, I think, was an indie published, like, Frankenstein retelling that I couldn't get my hands on. So that's kind of where I stopped in April, which was sad. I apparently wanted to keep track of my non-binary books of 2023, which I did not do. I definitely did not do. I forgot that I wanted to do that entirely. I also apparently had a book series to complete/continue list, which I had the Grisha Trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. I did complete that. I had the Lady Midnight series by Cassandra Clare. I did DNF the series and DNF everything else written by her for the rest of time. So that worked out. The Iron Fae series by Julie Kagawa. That was supposed to be a nostalgia read that I was supposed to get done this year. I didn't do that. Instead, I worked on the Gilda Joyce nostalgia read because I got into like a horror scenario. A Series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket. Didn't even touch those. Oh, I wanted to finish the Giver series by Lois Lowry. Didn't do that. And then there was another series that I wanted to finish by an author that I'm no longer supporting, so whatever. My 2023 year in review is ultimately like I failed almost all my goals. I did not prioritize my reading well. I did not prioritize my beliefs for reading very well. Like 2023, I did some really awesome things. I did some content that I really liked. I tried really hard to focus, but ultimately I personally feel like I failed, especially in the second half of 2023. Okay, so I have like a trailer, and then I have my neighbor's got a trailer right next to me. So we share a backyard for the most part, and like I'm looking out this window right now, and he's going around the backyard in his snowmobile with his dog chasing after him. It's so stinking cute. Oh my god, it's adorable. I love that for him. My neighbors seem very nice. I've never talked to them before, even though we live like less than 100 feet away from each other. So my 2023 reading year was not successful to me. I am unhappy with it. I'm unhappy with the outcomes, but I do feel rejuvenated to go into 2024 and reprioritize everything, really. So 133 books read. Most of them got pretty good ratings. I had 29 5-stars and only one book that was a 1.5 star. So according to stats, this year wasn't too bad. According to me and how I feel about it, this is like my first year in a long time where I don't feel very good about it. We're going to go into 2024 with a good attitude, and we are going to be accessible to ourselves while also pushing ourselves to grow as readers, as writers, as editors, as people. And it's going to be great. So with that, there is my 2023 year in review reading edition. Let me know if any of y'all feel kind of similar about 2023 as a year, as it's just a year of like mental illness, and if you feel better going into 2024 in that regards. So I hope everyone is having a fantastic day, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.